Back when times were hard, our grandparents and great-grandparents had a real knack for stretching whatever food was on hand. What started as simple survival often turned into surprisingly tasty creations. Meals that filled stomachs and brought a bit of comfort during tough days. These 50 long-forgotten poor man sandwiches might seem unusual now, but they once helped families make it through the Depression, wartime hardships, and more. So, let's take a look back at 50 forgotten poor man sandwiches you'll be glad to learn about today. Bologna Sandwich. The bologna sandwich might just be America's most classic low-cost meal. Thin cuts of this processed meat laid between soft white bread with a swipe of yellow mustard kept both workers and school kids going through much of the 1900s. Back in the Great Depression, bologna earned the nickname poor man's steak because real beef was simply out of reach for many. One slice was often stretched to cover the bread, giving the impression of plenty even when there wasn't much. The best versions were pan-fried until the edges curled up from the heat, forming a little pocket perfect for holding mustard or mayo. What made this sandwich memorable weren't fancy extras, but the little details. Some families would cut slits around the edges to keep it flat, while others preferred it fried to a crisp. More than just a meal, the bologna sandwich was a small piece of comfort in hard times when the promise of a simple lunch tomorrow meant more than any gourmet meal. Bread and butter sandwich. Few things capture the spirit of tough times like the humble bread and butter sandwich. Just 2 slices of bread with a layer of butter. Nothing more, nothing less. But this wasn't simply a meal. It was a quiet reminder of how people learned to get by with almost nothing. During the hardest economic struggles, some families served this as a full meal. What made it feel a little more special came down to the small touches. Butter softened just right so it spread smoothly without tearing the bread. A pinch of salt to bring out the flavor, or bread lightly toasted so the butter melted just enough. During wartime rationing, children often found these in their school lunches. Some parents would cut the sandwiches into fun shapes or press little patterns into the butter to brighten an otherwise plain meal. This simple sandwich shows that even the most basic foods can offer a sense of dignity when made with a bit of care. Fried Spam Sandwich. When Spam first hit store shelves in 1937, it quickly became a go-to substitute for fresh meat during the Depression and years of wartime rationing. Thin slices, fried until the edges turned crispy, were served on simple bread, turning into a staple meal for working families. During World War II, soldiers consumed massive amounts of Spam, and many brought their taste for it back home after the war ended. These sandwiches were often finished with a swipe of mustard or mayonnaise, and over time, what started as a meal born out of necessity became something enjoyed by choice. In Hawaii, Spam found an especially strong following during the military occupation, leading to regional recipes that remain popular even today. The Spam sandwich stands as a reminder of how foods born in hard times can become lasting cultural symbols, tied to moments of sacrifice, resilience, and shared history. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Today it's a lunchbox classic, but the peanut butter and jelly sandwich started out as a practical way to get affordable protein. Recipes featuring this simple pairing showed up as early as 1901, and by the time of the Great Depression, it had become a household staple. Peanut butter provided a budget-friendly source of protein, while homemade jellies made the most of whatever fruit was in season. During World War II, both peanut butter and jelly found their way into military rations, and soldiers returning home helped spread the sandwich's popularity across the country. What made it so special was its all-in-one simplicity. Sweet and salty, creamy and fruity, packed with both protein and carbohydrates. Families made the most of their supplies by spreading peanut butter right to the edges and keeping the jelly concentrated in the center. Over time, regional favorites developed. Grape jelly in the Northeast, strawberry preserves in the South, and apple butter in Appalachia, each a reflection of the fruits that were easiest to find when times were hard. Bread and milk sandwich. Perhaps the simplest form of comfort food, The bread and milk sandwich turned basic kitchen staples into something more than just a meal. Slices of bread were dipped in sweetened milk, dusted with sugar, and pressed together to create a soft, sweet bite when few other options existed. During the Depression, parents often served these makeshift desserts to children who rarely saw real sweets. When possible, a touch of cinnamon turned this humble treat into something almost resembling cake. Depression-era memoirs recall these sandwiches as both a symbol of hardship and a testament to parental love. The small, thoughtful ways mothers and fathers turned almost nothing into moments of comfort during the hardest times. Sloppy Joe. Another iconic sandwich from this era is the Sloppy Joe, made with seasoned ground beef, onions, tomato sauce or ketchup, Worcestershire sauce, and other spices, all piled onto a hamburger bun. The true origin of the Sloppy Joe is still debated. Some say it began in a Havana bar in 1917, while others credit a cook from Sioux City, Iowa in the 1930s. By the 1940s, Sloppy Joes had become a common fixture on American tables. This hearty, flavorful sandwich is a reflection of mid-century culinary trends, blending convenience with bold, comforting flavors that fed families through busy times. Tongue Sandwich. The tongue sandwich tells a story of culinary resourcefulness, transforming an often overlooked cut of meat into a sought-after delicacy. In classic Jewish delis and European cafes, beef tongue was slow-cooked until tender, then sliced thin and layered onto hearty rye bread or crusty rolls. Bold condiments like spicy mustard or sharp horseradish were typically added to balance the richness of the meat. Though less common today, the tongue sandwich still holds a place of honor among those who appreciate the deep, traditional flavors of offal-based dishes and the time-honored techniques that brought them to life. Creamed Corn Sandwich. The creamed corn sandwich brings back memories of a time when comfort came from the simplest homemade meals. Made by spreading creamy, sweet corn generously over slices of buttered bread, this sandwich offered a warm, satisfying bite during times when ingredients were scarce. Its sweet, mellow flavor made it especially popular as a filling option that felt indulgent despite its humble origins. This dish reflects an era when making the most of what you had wasn't just a necessity. It was a way of life. Even today, the creamed corn sandwich remains a comforting choice for those who appreciate the timeless flavors of classic American home cooking. Potted Meat Sandwich. In the early 20th century, potted meat sandwiches were a practical and popular meal, born from the need to preserve meat before refrigeration became common. Potted meat was made by slowly cooking meat until tender, then sealing it under a layer of fat to keep it fresh for longer periods. Preparing a sandwich was simple. Just spread butter on slices of bread and add a hearty layer of potted meat. This meal provided a quick, filling option at a time when keeping fresh meat wasn't easy. As refrigeration became widespread, potted meat sandwiches gradually faded from everyday meals, but they remain a lasting example of the ingenuity and resourcefulness of earlier generations. Cheese Dream Sandwich. The Cheese Dream Sandwich is a comforting classic that first appeared in the early 1900s, offering warmth and simplicity when times were tough. Typically served open-faced, this humble creation featured thin slices of American cheese gently melted over buttered bread. Some versions added a light drizzle of honey or a sprinkle of toasted breadcrumbs for extra flavor and texture. Over the years, cooks have put their own spin on this timeless favorite using specialty cheeses or a hint of spice, but the heart of the Cheese Dream remains unchanged. Its lasting appeal lies in its simplicity, a reminder of home, comfort, and the resourcefulness that helped past generations turn the simplest ingredients into something special. Macaroni and Cheese Loaf Sandwich. Travel back to 1950s America, when comfort food took on new and creative forms. The macaroni and cheese loaf sandwich featured thick slices of a loaf made from cooked pasta and bits of ham, served between slices of bread with a spread of mustard or mayonnaise. This quirky creation provided the rich, hearty taste of macaroni and cheese in a portable, easy-to-eat sandwich form. Families often served it with potato chips or pickles on the side for a little extra crunch. Though unusual by today's standards, this sandwich offered a practical solution for combining beloved flavors with the convenience of a quick lunch, blending nostalgia and practicality into one memorable meal. Curried sardine salad sandwich. This punchy, flavorful sandwich combines sardines with the warmth of curry for a meal that's anything but ordinary. Popularized in mid-20th century America, especially after World War II when canned sardines were a budget-friendly staple, this recipe mixed mashed sardines with curry powder, creamy mayonnaise, a splash of lemon juice, and chopped crunchy celery. Spread generously on bread and topped with fresh lettuce or thin cucumber slices, it offered a perfect balance of bold flavors and crisp textures. In England, variations added chopped apples or raisins for sweetness, while American versions often included hard-boiled eggs or capers for extra depth. This sandwich is a reminder of how simple pantry ingredients could come together to create something vibrant and memorable. Ham and cheese sandwich. Now seen as an everyday lunch option, the ham and cheese sandwich originally represented thoughtful management of limited resources. Thin slices of deli ham and a single piece of processed cheese were stretched across multiple sandwiches when meat and dairy were hard to afford. Depression-era mothers often used just one slice of each to make sandwiches for the whole family, sometimes adding lettuce or mayonnaise to make them feel more filling. This combination offered complete protein at a time when meat alone was too costly to serve in large portions. Some families even saved cheese rinds to melt into a spread that went further than sliced cheese. The humble ham and cheese sandwich is a reminder of how people combined basic foods in smart ways to meet their nutritional needs during hard times. Tomato sandwich. When summer gardens were at their peak, the tomato sandwich became a simple celebration of nature's generosity during times when little else was plentiful. Thick slices of fresh, sun-warmed tomatoes laid on bread with just a dash of salt and pepper turned into a seasonal favorite that cost next to nothing. In the South, families often added a thin layer of mayonnaise, while in the Midwest, butter was the preferred choice. The secret to the perfect sandwich was using tomatoes still warm from the vine, their juices soaking into the bread to create a wonderfully messy and satisfying bite. During those peak garden months, it wasn't uncommon for families to eat this meal daily until the first frost put an end to the season. The excitement of that first ripe tomato and the simple ritual of making this sandwich became cherished traditions in rural communities. A meal that somehow stood for both hardship and the simple joys of abundance all at once. Onion sandwich. Raw onion tucked between slices of bread might seem more like a challenge than a meal today, but for countless workers in the early 1900s, it was a reliable way to fill an empty stomach. Onions were cheap, available all year, and brought both flavor and a bit of nutrition when options were scarce. The trick was to slice the onion as thin as possible, soak the slices briefly in cold water to take away some of the harshness, and then dry them off before placing them on bread spread with butter or splashed with a little vinegar. A pinch of salt and pepper finished off this simple yet flavorful meal. Coal miners and factory workers often packed these sandwiches for lunch, and the strong smell alone was enough to keep others from sneaking a bite. Beyond just filling bellies, the sandwich offered quick energy from the bread and a natural defense against winter colds thanks to the onion's antibacterial qualities. What started as a matter of survival became a lasting favorite for those who grew to appreciate its bold simplicity. Egg and sardine sandwich. When times were hard and protein was in short supply, the egg and sardine sandwich offered a way to get maximum nutrition from just a few simple ingredients. Canned sardines were mashed together with chopped hard-boiled eggs and a splash of vinegar, creating a filling packed with protein and healthy fats. Immigrant families especially favored this combination, Drawing from old European traditions of preserving and preparing fish, these sandwiches held up well in lunch pails, making them ideal for factory workers and miners who needed lasting energy to get through long, demanding shifts. When possible, families added finely chopped onions or pickles to boost the flavor. More than just a meal, the egg and sardine sandwich is a reminder of how people used instinct and tradition to stay nourished, long before science explained why such simple pairings were so effective. Olive loaf sandwich. Step back to the mid-20th century, when American lunchboxes often held a new favorite, the olive loaf sandwich. This cold cut, made from a mix of ground pork, beef, and green olives, became popular for its unique, tangy flavor. Assembling one was simple. A few slices of olive loaf layered with creamy mayonnaise or sharp mustard, a bit of crisp lettuce, and sometimes a slice of cheese, all tucked between fresh bread. Often served alongside potato chips or pickles, this sandwich became a lunchtime and picnic staple. Though modern shifts toward fresh, health-focused eating have pushed processed meats out of favor, the olive loaf sandwich remains a nostalgic reminder of a time when convenience and bold flavors shaped everyday meals. Spam and pineapple sandwich. Spam and pineapple sandwiches embody America's fondness for sweet and savory flavor pairings, a trend that took off during World War II. Introduced to U.S. troops in 1937, Spam soon found its way into homes across the country. This recipe reflects the growing influence of Hawaiian cuisine on the mainland, particularly after Hawaii became a state in 1959. The sandwich pairs crispy, pan-fried slices of Spam with sweet, lightly caramelized pineapple rings, all tucked between slices of toasted bread. The salty richness of the Spam contrasts beautifully with the bright sweetness of the pineapple. Some versions included mayonnaise or a slice of cheese for added richness. This dish stands as a flavorful reminder of how Hawaiian culture left its mark on American kitchens during the 1950s, blending diverse traditions into a uniquely satisfying meal. Fish stick sandwich. Gaining popularity in the 1950s, the fish stick sandwich became a staple during America's post-war embrace of convenience foods. Companies like Gorton's of Gloucester introduced breaded fish sticks as one of the first frozen foods to benefit from the era's booming television advertising. Mild in flavor and quick to prepare, fish sticks became a popular source of protein for busy households. Served hot and crispy between slices of bread with a generous dollop of tartar sauce or ketchup, these sandwiches offered a crunchy, comforting meal that was especially popular in school cafeterias. The rise of the fish stick sandwich reflects a broader cultural shift toward easy processed foods designed to feed growing families with minimal effort. Turkey and cranberry sandwich. The turkey and cranberry sandwich turned the challenge of holiday leftovers into something truly delicious. Rising to popularity in mid-20th century America, this sandwich offered a creative way to give new life to leftover Thanksgiving turkey. Made by layering tender slices of turkey with a generous helping of sweet, tangy cranberry sauce, often with a bit of leftover stuffing tucked in, this sandwich captured the flavors and festive feeling of the holiday season. Simple yet full of contrast, the savory richness of the turkey paired perfectly with the bright sweetness of the cranberry sauce, creating a meal that felt like a second celebration of Thanksgiving itself. Victory sandwich. The Victory sandwich emerged as a symbol of resilience and optimism in the years following World War II, created during a time when every bit of food mattered. Built from simple, available ingredients, typically buttered bread, a thin layer of tangy mustard or butter, and whatever cold cuts or vegetables could be found, this humble sandwich represented triumph over hardship. In modern times, chefs have reimagined the Victory sandwich by combining these classic elements with gourmet touches like specialty spreads and pickled vegetables, honoring its modest roots while appealing to contemporary tastes. mock chicken sandwich. When real chicken was out of reach, resourceful cooks came up with mock chicken made from whatever they had on hand. This spread was often built from coarsely ground bologna or other low-cost processed meats, mixed with cracker crumbs and seasoned to imitate the flavor and texture of chicken salad. Factory lunchrooms and school cafeterias frequently served these sandwiches during wartime rationing. The familiar flavor came from careful seasoning, sage, celery salt, and sometimes even a drop of yellow food coloring to give it the look of true chicken salad. In some versions, cooked beans replaced the meat entirely. The mock chicken sandwich is a perfect example of culinary creativity, how people didn't just accept scarcity, but found clever ways to recreate the foods they missed using whatever was available. Salad sandwich. When canned tuna became widely available in the early 1900s, it changed the way families approached budget-friendly meals. Mixed with a bit of mayonnaise and, when possible, finely chopped celery or onion, a small amount of tuna could be stretched to make several sandwiches. During World War II, when meat was heavily rationed, tuna salad sandwiches became a patriotic stand-in for beef. Navy wives, in particular, embraced the dish, often adding relish or chopped hard-boiled eggs if they had them, making the filling go even further. These sandwiches were a common sight at church events and community gatherings where feeding a large crowd with limited resources was essential. The tuna salad sandwich became a symbol of community strength, a reminder of how sharing knowledge and simple recipes helped entire neighborhoods endure tough times together. Ravioli sandwich. A playful twist on Italian-inspired flavors, the ravioli sandwich brought together the comfort of pasta with the portability of a sandwich. Likely emerging alongside the popularity of canned ravioli introduced by Chef Boyardee in the 1930s, this sandwich featured meat or cheese-filled ravioli placed between slices of bread. Toasted or grilled, the sandwich took on a satisfying crispness that contrasted with the soft, savory ravioli inside. Known in some areas as Italian sloppy joes or ravioli heroes, these sandwiches found fans among budget-conscious college students and anyone looking for a simple way to enjoy familiar Italian flavors in a convenient, handheld meal. Deviled ham sandwich. Deviled ham sandwiches became popular in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, offering a flavorful way to stretch leftover ham. The term deviled refers to the addition of bold, spicy seasonings, a practice dating back to the 18th century. Typically, ground ham was mixed with ingredients like mustard, hot sauce, or cayenne pepper to create a zesty, flavorful spread. One of the most recognized producers was the William Underwood Company, which began making deviled ham in 1868. Their distinctive devil logo became one of the oldest registered food trademarks in the United States. To prepare this sandwich, ground ham is blended with mayonnaise, mustard, and spices to taste, then spread generously onto slices of bread. Some added lettuce or pickles for extra texture and flavor, turning a simple meal into something a bit more lively. Lard sandwich. Arguably the simplest of all poor man's meals, the lard sandwich stood as a symbol of survival with the bare essentials. A layer of rendered animal fat spread over bread delivered much-needed calories when nothing else could be found. Rural families, especially in Appalachia, often turned to this humble meal for quick energy. Depending on what was on hand, some would add a pinch of salt for a savory bite or a dash of sugar to make it slightly sweet. Those lucky enough to have home-rendered lard swore it tasted better than anything store-bought. On rare special days, a thin smear of molasses turned this otherwise plain meal into a small treat. Thanks to its high calorie content, this sandwich became a favorite among laborers who needed real fuel to push through long, physically demanding days. Mayonnaise and banana sandwich. The pairing of creamy mayonnaise and sweet bananas might sound odd today, but for many Southern families during tough times, it was a familiar and filling meal. This simple sandwich provided a bit of protein from the mayo and important nutrients from low-cost bananas. Mothers during the Depression would carefully slice ripe bananas lengthwise, laying them neatly on white bread spread with just enough mayonnaise to add richness without overpowering the fruit's sweetness. On special days, if sugar or honey was on hand, a light sprinkle made it feel like a treat. Even Elvis Presley enjoyed his own twist on this, adding peanut butter to the mix. The combination of tangy mayo and soft, sweet banana created a surprisingly balanced flavor that stuck in people's memories long after life got easier. Monte Cristo Sandwich. The Monte Cristo sandwich rose to fame in mid-20th century America, becoming a beloved twist on the traditional ham and cheese. Dipped in egg or batter and fried to golden perfection, this rich sandwich offered a satisfying combination of crisp edges and melted cheese. Inspired by the French croque monsieur, the Monte Cristo could be served purely savory or with a touch of sweetness. Some versions were dusted with powdered sugar and paired with maple syrup or fruit preserves for dipping. Its popularity grew thanks in part to its appearance at Disneyland's Blue Bayou restaurant, where it became a signature menu item enjoyed by generations. Anchovy Paste Sandwich. When even a small tube of anchovy paste had to stretch across several meals, this bold and salty spread became a trusted option for working-class families. Spread thinly over buttered bread and occasionally topped with slices of hard-boiled egg when available, anchovy paste delivered powerful flavor along with valuable omega-3 fats. Immigrant communities from Mediterranean regions kept this tradition alive, staying connected to their culinary roots even during times of hardship. The intense taste meant that even a tiny amount was enough to satisfy. Some families added thin slices of onion or a splash of lemon juice when they could. This sandwich stands as an example of how strong, concentrated flavors turned small quantities into deeply satisfying meals. Peanut butter and pickle sandwich. This unlikely mix of creamy peanut butter and sharp, crunchy pickles created a surprisingly satisfying blend of flavors that helped stretch simple ingredients further. During the Depression, home cooks found that the tangy bite of pickles perfectly balanced the richness of peanut butter. Dill pickles were the most common choice, though in areas where sweet pickles were home-canned, those found their way into the sandwich too. The combination of textures, smooth peanut butter paired with the crisp snap of pickles, brought variety to diets that often felt repetitive. This sandwich stayed popular well into the 1950s, especially in rural communities where home canning kept pantries stocked and peanut butter remained an affordable staple. Many who grew up eating these sandwiches carried the tradition into adulthood, with each bite serving as a nostalgic reminder of childhood and the resilience it took to get through hard times. Cucumber sandwich. Before it became a symbol of elegant afternoon tea, the cucumber sandwich had far humbler roots. Thin slices of cucumber tucked between pieces of bread offered a cooling, refreshing meal for workers enduring hot weather when meat was out of reach. During the Depression, families often made these sandwiches in the summer using cucumbers from their own gardens, adding just a light layer of butter and a sprinkle of salt. The crisp, cool bite brought relief on sweltering days, especially for those working long hours on farms. When possible, a dash of vinegar or a hint of dill gave the simple sandwich a bit more flavor. Unlike many other poor man's sandwiches focused on filling empty stomachs, this one provided something different, a small moment of freshness and lightness when most meals were heavy and plain. It's a reminder that even in the hardest times, people found simple ways to enjoy life's little pleasures. Chicken liver sandwich. When every part of the chicken had to count, the livers became a practical and highly nutritious sandwich filling. Cooked, finely chopped, and mixed with onions and a bit of mayonnaise. Chicken livers made rich, iron-packed sandwiches that cost very little. Rural families who raised their own chickens relied on these sandwiches to make use of every last part of the bird. When possible, hard-boiled eggs or a spoonful of relish were added to stretch the mixture and improve the flavor. Farm children often carried these sandwiches in their lunch pails, getting the nutrition they needed to grow strong on meals born from necessity. Long before nose-to-tail eating became trendy, the chicken liver sandwich showed how families practiced sustainable eating simply because they had no other choice: chicken salad sandwich. When one chicken had to stretch across several days, the chicken salad sandwich marked the final use of every last bit. After the bird served as Sunday's main meal and its bones flavored Monday's soup, the remaining scraps were finely chopped and mixed with mayonnaise to make sandwiches for the days ahead. Cooks during the Depression and wartime often added diced celery, apples, or hard-boiled eggs to bulk up the filling and make it last longer. The finer the meat was chopped, the further it could stretch, turning scarcity into satisfying meals. At church gatherings and community events, these sandwiches appeared with crusts removed and cut into neat triangles, transforming everyday survival food into something suited for special occasions, without spending a penny more. The chicken salad sandwich stood as a lesson in careful resourcefulness, ensuring every last bit of food was put to good use. If you lived through hard times yourself, or you heard about them, some of what's coming next might sound familiar. And if you'd like to hear more about the old days, do us a favor and subscribe. It's free and helps us share more like this. Corned beef tongue sandwich. For the more adventurous palate, the corned beef tongue sandwich offered a unique and memorable flavor. Made with thinly sliced, seasoned, and perfectly cooked corned beef tongue, this sandwich had a distinctive taste and texture unlike any other. Served simply between slices of bread, it reflected a time when home cooks made creative use of every part of the animal. While not as commonly seen today, this sandwich remains a fascinating example of historical American cuisine, showcasing the inventive ways people turned humble ingredients into something special. Its rich, savory profile continues to intrigue those who enjoy exploring forgotten culinary traditions. Ketchup sandwich. When cupboards were nearly empty, the ketchup sandwich stood as a last-ditch meal that somehow won over the hearts of children. Just 2 slices of bread with a thin layer of ketchup in between. Nothing fancy, but it turned almost nothing into something. During the Depression, ketchup added both flavor and a hint of nutrition from its tomato base when fresh produce was out of reach. Some parents toasted the bread to make this simple meal feel a bit more filling, and when sugar was available, they'd sprinkle a little on top to sweeten the ketchup, creating something close to a dessert. Even school cafeterias served these sandwiches in the 1930s. Many children who grew up eating them kept the tradition alive long after times improved. A humble comfort food that reminded them of the strength it took to get through hard days. Mayonnaise and onion sandwich. Sharp, raw onion mellowed by smooth mayonnaise created a sandwich with bold flavor when little else was on hand. Thin slices of onion were often soaked briefly in water to soften their bite before being layered with mayo between slices of bread. Factory and mill workers favored this affordable filling option, which provided enough energy to power through tough, physical jobs. In particular, it became closely tied to southern textile mills and Midwestern industrial towns. When available, a pinch of black pepper or paprika added a touch of extra flavor. The mayonnaise and onion sandwich stands as a practical example of working-class resilience. A no-frills meal focused purely on filling stomachs and keeping people moving through hard days. Bacon and peanut butter sandwich. When a single strip of bacon had to stretch across an entire meal, the bacon and peanut butter sandwich came to life. One crispy strip was often crumbled and mixed into peanut butter, spreading its smoky flavor throughout. During times of meat rationing, this creative combination let families enjoy the taste of bacon while making their limited supplies last. The salty, smoky bite of bacon paired perfectly with the creamy richness of peanut butter, making the meal feel far more satisfying than its simple ingredients suggested. On special occasions, a drizzle of honey or molasses turned it into a sweet and savory treat. This sandwich shows how even the smallest luxury, a lone strip of bacon, could turn an ordinary meal into something worth remembering when used with a bit of ingenuity. These forgotten sandwiches reveal the hidden chapters of America's culinary history, showing how everyday people met extraordinary challenges with creativity and resilience. They remind us that great food doesn't always come from rare ingredients or complicated recipes. Sometimes, it's about working with what you have, creating comfort from simplicity, and sharing whatever is available with those around you. So, the next time your grocery budget feels stretched, take a cue from these humble creations. You might just find that between 2 slices of bread lies more than a meal. There's a connection to the quiet strength and determination that shaped much of America's food traditions. If you'd like to hear more about how people made the most of what they had, join us again and subscribe before you go.